welcome to my channel. Today we're doing a January wrap-up. I haven't done a reading wrap-up in a hot minute. It's been a while. That's just because I haven't been reading much, but this month I actually did read stuff, and I actually finished books, which is impressive, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. And I'm hoping to continue that throughout the year. So I finished 5 books this month, which was, wow, I did something. I've usually been averaging on like 1 book a month since last May, which is not great, but you know, for me, with my personal reading goals, that was really disappointing for me. But now getting more into this year, I feel like I'm off to a good head start again, and I'm hopefully going to be able to keep that up throughout the year without getting into another reading slump. And yeah, so let's get started. So the first book that I actually read this month was a reread, and that would have been Gideon the Ninth. I reread this while annotating it for a friend. I was going to annotate it for a Christmas gift for her, but I didn't end up giving it to her, and I didn't end up annotating the other half of the book. Like, the second half of the book is not annotated. The first half is, but the second half still remains unannotated because I basically just read it again. And I plan to give it to her soon. They're just busy with university right now, so they don't really have time to read, but I do plan to still give it to them. I loved this book just as much as I loved it the first time. I still thought Gideon is one of the best characters I've ever read about, still related to her really hard. I loved the dynamic between Gideon and Harrow, and I just loved it in general. I found it to be a really, really good book the second time through. Also to be noted on the subject of Gideon the Ninth, I have a signed copy now. My partner got me a signed copy of Gideon the Ninth, which is rude and also incredible. So I love them for that. Thank you. But yeah, signed copy. So if you see that like sitting in the background here, it's because it's the signed one and I don't know where to put it. The second book I read this month was Stephen King's On Writing. I really got into writing my book this month. I'm personally writing a fantasy, an epic fantasy, along with the help of my partner. We've kind of crafted a universe together that I would really love to share. So I'm currently working on the process of that, talking to publishers and working through all those fun logistics things. So I actually decided to pick up Stephen King's On Writing because I really respect Stephen King as an author, and I really like listening to him talk, so I listened to the audiobook of Stephen King's On Writing, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the book was brilliant, it was provocative, it was funny, it was very thoughtful in its approach to writing. Another thing that I really realized while reading this book was that I really don't care if my book is successful or if anyone reads it or even likes it. I really just want to be able to be like, I published a book. Like, I published my own story. I wrote my own story. I wrote my own universe with complex details and like so many plot lines and characters and stuff like that, and just be able to say that I did that and that I love it. And if no one else loves it, I don't care. Like, honestly, whatever. I still did it. I ended up giving Stephen King On Writing a 5 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed it. There were some bits towards the end which got more into like the theory of writing that I was less interested in, but I still took notes during that time to be like, okay, well, here's the theory, but I found more the stories of telling how he got into writing much more impactful on me than hearing the tact and the style of writing and the kind of educational bits that go into it. That was much less interesting to me. Third book I read this month was also a reread. It was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I am rereading it to actually read House of Sky and Breath, or Breath and Sky, or whatever it is, in February. So this month is when the second book comes out. I am a bit scared because I found while rereading it a second time I actually disliked Hunt a lot more than I did the first time. I thought Hunt was fine the first time that I read it through, but then the second time going back to like just kind of seeing the relationship from a different perspective and knowing where it was going, I didn't like him as much. So I'm kind of anxious to see how that's going to go over in House of Earth or House of Sky and Breath, especially compared to Sarah J. Maas's other male protagonists like Rysand and Rowan. He doesn't really compare to them. He's not them. He's not cool like them. He doesn't get in the cool boys club. So I don't really like Hunt introduction to House of Earth and Blood a lot more, where we were kind of info dumped on for a while, which does happen with adult fantasy books, but I found the way this was done, it wasn't as smoothly as it could have been done. We could have been introduced to the world more slowly, I think, through character development. I think this book should have taken a slower approach to its story and been kind of more of a developing the idea of this really interesting world rather than dumping all this information on the reader in the beginning and then running off with the story, because that's really what it felt like. But I still loved it and gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Fourth book I read this month was Power of the Dog. This was an interesting one. I read this book because I saw the trailer for the movie on Netflix and I was like, that looks cool. I kind of want to try that. So I read the book. It is a Western. So when I thought a Western, and then when I saw the trailer, which kind of looked more like a psychological horror, I was like, this is gonna be a really messed up, like, Western psychological horror. So I was really interested in that. That was not what the book was at all. So the book was a very, very slow character study. The main character, Phil, he is a queer-coded Western cowboy, and he is interesting. He is sadistic and hates everyone except for his brother George. He's very cruel. He is homophobic, probably to make up for the fact that he is gay himself. It was just it was interesting, but I think because I came from it from the perspective of seeing the movie trailer and being like, this is gonna be like an action-packed psychological horror, and then reading a character study that has the underlying, not really, there's no action really in the book. I don't find there was nothing really that was like, whoa. I was kind of, I guess I'm also very desensitized to horror and to violence to be just pretty much okay. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a story about a guy and he kind of sucks. But yeah, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't my favorite, so I gave it a 3 out of 5. The final book I read this month was a Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. I found this book to be a very long setup to a series that's obviously going to be really, really interesting. So personally, I found this book kind of boring, but I could tell while I was reading it that all this important information that I was being told is going to be really big later on. So this book has a lot of conversations and a lot of this character doing this thing to make an impact on something that's going to happen way further along in the story. So I was kind of bored through a lot of this, but I was also aware, because I have seen the show and I do know how the book series progresses, I was kind of aware that these things are setting up something. So the first book to me was really just kind of like a very, very long setup to everything else. But I'm really excited to read the rest of the series because I feel like it was set up really well. I already really like the characters, and I'm already really excited to read about what happens to them. I watched the show, and having been impacted by the deaths that happened in the show, I'm kind of more scared to read them because I already find myself way more attached to the characters when reading them in the book. I think Ned's death hits a lot harder in the book. It really sets something up and I think that the books are going to make a far stronger impact on me. Yeah, that does it for this video. That's all I read this month, and I'm hoping to keep reading a lot so that I can keep doing these videos every month, and I hope you enjoyed. Please comment what you read this month and subscribe, and anyways, bye.